Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and welcome to another episode of Way of the Underhive. This series is dedicated to helping brand new players to Necromunda build their starting rosters and learn more about the game mechanics of their favorite gangs. And on today's episode, we will discuss playing a Noble House Outcast gang for House Greim for your future campaigns of Necromunda Ash Wastes. So with this brand new expansion heading out for Necromunda, playing a Noble House Delegation Outcast gang for the Ash Wastes is actually a really positive option for a lot of players out there. And because we now have access to vehicles with heavy weapons, we've pretty much opened up the horizons for different types of gangs to participate in an Ash Waste campaign, and of course Noble House Outcast Delegation gangs being among those. So in today's episode, we will discuss the strengths, weaknesses, and fighters of playing a House Greim Outcast gang. We'll also talk about its play style and provide critical information that you can use in your future campaigns, including a 1400 point starting roster, so that way you can take House Greim, get your outcasts, hit the highways of the Ash Waste, and start bringing glory to your fallen members of your noble house on the Ash Waste of Necromunda. So that being said, let's go and get this video started and start talking about the strengths and weaknesses of playing a Noble House Outcast gang, especially if you're using a delegation. Alright, so let's talk about the strengths of playing a Delegation Outcast gang. So potentially it's one of the most powerful starting gangs that you can actually have in a campaign, and the reason why is because of the fighters that make up your delegations. Regardless if you're playing criminal, merchant, or Noble House delegations, they usually all start off with excellent equipment and skills right from the start. In some cases they have some really good stats, and they have some very powerful special rules that can make them really advantageous and very competitive in an Ash Waste campaign. At the same time, you can also take advantage of weird disciplines now because the Book of the Outcast release those weird disciplines. You can even customize your fighters even further. And in addition to adding vehicles with heavier weapon options and different boons and weapon gears from those vehicles, could also give your delegation gang a huge advantage out in the Ash Waste of Necromunda. And these are some of the advantages and strengths of actually playing a delegation outcast gang. Alright, so perhaps the biggest weakness of actually playing a delegation gang that's an outcast gang is that you cannot take any alliances whatsoever. If you decide to use the delegation as the core of your gang, no alliances are available to you. So for example, if you're a merchant guild delegation gang, you can't take criminal alliances or noble house alliances, and vice versa for all the other ones as well. So that's one of the biggest weaknesses of playing a delegation gang. If you really like using alliances to help your gang out, this might not be the one for you. However though, like I said before in the strengths, it does give you a leg up in the actual beginning of a campaign because you have better fighters, better equipment, and better skills. Now, one of the weaknesses of this game, of course, is that if you decide to play WYSIWYG, which is an acronym for what you see is what you get type of gangs, this can be quite pricey in my opinion. And the reason why is because, for example, if you were to play a Nauticin siphoning delegation, for example, as the core of your gang, and you want to buy the Forge World miniatures in order to fill that gang, those Forge World miniatures can be quite expensive. So because of that, I would suggest looking for cheaper alternatives or convert your own in most cases. A lot of these delegations have not been manufactured yet, so you could possibly do that, but that's just something you might want to take into account. Me, of course, I would never actually do that. I would just convert my own or find alternate ways to get cheaper miniatures, and that's the thing I would keep in mind when I would be playing a delegation gang. At the same time, these gangs are also very expensive to field in terms of credits. These delegations, like I said, have a lot of skills, a lot of weapons, better stats, and you're going to pay for those. For example, I think the cheapest of the delegations starts off at like 540 credits, I believe. So because of that, it's going to be very, very expensive for you to fill these fighters, but that's the way it goes. And lastly, probably the biggest weakness of actually playing an outcast delegation gang is that you do have to be aware of the balanced bandwagon. A lot of balanced bandwagon types will scream overpowered or game breaking or unfair and so on and so forth. But of course, once again, just ignore those immaturity of those players, drink the salt of their tears, and just use that to power yourself in destroying your enemies. So these are some of the strengths and weaknesses involved in playing a delegation gang. Alright, so when it comes to delegation gangs, once again, you get to pick from merchant guilds, criminal syndicates, or noble houses, and use those delegations you get from those alliances to form the core of your gang. Leaders also get archetypes and affiliations depending on what delegation you choose. Also, champions also get archetypes as well, so that allows for a lot of customization for your different members of your delegations depending on the affiliations and the archetypes that you choose. Now, once again, remember, archetypes depend on what kind of primary and secondary skills your champions and your leaders receive, while affiliations usually determine what kind of weapons and equipment you can get from the starting list, if not from the trading post as well. At the same time, the nice thing about these delegations is that the members of those delegations gain experience and they can purchase weapons and equipment over time, just like any other gang. So that part is really, really cool. And once again, I have to make sure I stress this a lot. If you decide to take a Delegation Outcast gang, you cannot make any alliances whatsoever in the future. So just be aware when that actually happens and keep that in mind. So when it comes to the actual noble houses of Necromunda and your delegation gangs, you actually have 6 different delegations you can actually choose from to form the very core of your gang. And those delegations are the House Catalyst Carnival, that's your first option, the House Ulanti Court Advisors, House Greim Military Attaché, House Co-Iron Ministerium Delegation, House Ranlo Auditing Conclave, or the House Tai Omioto Coven. So all 6 of the noble houses are available for delegations to use for the core for your noble outcast gang, and pretty much it just kind of depends on what you want to use and the various things you want to play and how you want to create the aesthetic for your outcast noble gang. So that being said, now that we're done talking about the delegations you can choose from, let's go ahead and talk about the specific core of your gang for the house that you choose on the next slide. Alright, so let's talk about the delegation for your gang, which is the House Greim Military Attaché. Now this delegation is going to cost you 330 credits in order to field this. Now on its appearance, House Greim may not appear to be, appears to be a very mediocre delegation to build an outcast gang from, but if you kit out your gang right though, it's anything but mediocre. The real secret of this House Outcast gang success is mainly 2 things. First of all, it's the Overseer skill that the Creekmaster actually has on this character, as well as the weapons and equipment that you can purchase for your gang as well. Now, House Greim provides Outcast gangs with light Carapace armor that you can use for your fighters for 80 credits, bolt pistols for 45 credits, power swords for 50 credits, and combat shotguns for 60 credits. So by taking these excellent weapons and combining them with the cheap cost of Outcast champions and Outcast scum, you have a very powerful combination, especially if you kit out your vehicles the right way as well. So House Greim, it fancies itself as a noble house of warfare. Well, out in the Ash Wastes, you're going to reign supreme with combat, especially if you equip your gang the correct way when heading out into the Ash Wastes. So now that we're done talking about the House Greim Military Attaché, let's talk about the individual fighters that make up this delegation. Alright, so first of all, let's talk about the Creekmaster, which is going to cost you 240 credits, and this first fighter is going to be the leader of your gang. Let's talk about their stats real quick. So the Creekmaster's got 5-inch movement, 4+ weapon skill, 4+ ballista skill. They have 3 strength and 3 toughness, 2 wounds, 4+ initiative, 1 attack. They have 6 leadership, 6 cool, 7 willpower, as well as 6 intelligence. Now, when it comes to the Creekmaster actually has a lot of things going on for the leader. And at first glance, you may think it's mediocre, and that's perfectly fine because their stats are pretty lackluster, but what you really want to use as leader for is as a supporting character for your gang. So like I said before, this is going to be the leader of your gang, so my suggestion is to actually equip this fighter with a Mastermind archetype. That way they get access to Savant as well as the cunning skill trees, and that's really going to help out with the support aspect for your gang as well. Now this fighter does come equipped with light Carapace armor for that 4-up armor save. They also have a bolt pistol as well as a power sword, so they're not slouches in close combat as well. And those weapons that they're equipped with is actually perfect for self-defense because your Kreekmaster is quickly going to become a target in your gang, especially if you use this character like I suggest in your guys' starting lists. Now, the nice thing about this character, they do have 2 special rules. They have the Overseer skill as well as an Eye for War special rule. Now, the Overseer skill is the real killer in this list. This is going to allow you to double activate your fighters and vehicles to rain maximum damage and carnage upon your opponents. And so because of that, this guy is going to be a quick target for your enemies to go after because of the fact that they actually bring that double activation as well. Now, an Eye for War is a nice special rule as well. Pretty much how this works is that during the pre-battle sequence, you can increase or decrease the result of a roll for a scenario table by 1 point. Now, it may not be all that impressive, but like I always say in my videos, you never know when you need a +1 or a -1, and that could really actually tip things into your favor. So it's more of a fringe benefit than an actual perk, but every little bit helps. Now, your skill for this archetype is definitely going to be the Munitioneer skill. That way you can re-roll failed ammo rolls with your heavier weapons, because the way you're going to equip out your lists, especially with this Creekmaster, that Munitioneer skill is going to be extremely important. And that's pretty much the rundown on the Creekmaster for your House Greim Outcast gang. Alright, so up next we're talking about your Jaeger Kin. Your Jaeger Kin is going to be a gang level fighter for your entourage, for your delegation. This fighter costs 90 credits, so let's talk about their stats real quick. So the Jaeger Kin's got a 5-inch movement allowance, 4+ weapon skill, 3+ ballistic skill. They have 3 strength, 3 toughness, 1 wound, 4 initiative, 2 attacks. They have 8+ for leadership, 7+ for cool, 8+ for willpower, as well as 9+ for intelligence. So the Jaeger Kin, of course, is pretty awesome in terms of the equipment they can use. Their stats are decent, but the nice thing about this guy is the Jaeger Kin is actually really good close combat stats, but the way they're equipped, though, they really don't have any close combat weapons, which is kind of strange. So when it comes to their equipment, they do have mesh armor. It's going to give them that 5-up armor save, which is going to be really nice. However, they do come with a combat shotgun with salvo and shred around, and that's going to be very, very important to use because combat shotguns are the pwn in this game, and so having the access to that's going to be really awesome. My suggestion is that once you recruit the Jaeger Kin is to purchase a Chainsword for this fighter as soon as possible. You automatically get it for being an Outcast gang. It's only going to cost you 25 credits to equip this fighter with it. You got rending on it. At the same time, you get +1 to hit with it. You also have parry, and plus it's a Chainsword, so that's really going to help you out as well. Now, this fighter does come with the marksman skill, which is kind of nice, but the marksman, unfortunately, is kind of more of a fringe benefit than an actual skill because it only kicks in if you roll a 6, and that's only 1/6 of the times you're actually going to do that for your hit. So while it is kind of cool to have marksman, it's not incredibly all that vital for this fighter because the combat shotgun is a short-range weapon anyways. So in my opinion, the best way to use the Jaeger Kin is to use this fighter as they were designed for when the delegations first came out. Keep them as a bodyguard to the Jägermeister as much as possible, the Kreekmaster as much as possible. Sorry, Jägermeister is a type of alcohol. I'll talk about the Kreekmaster, which is the leader for your gang. Keep this person within 3 inches of them all times, so that way they can protect the Kreekmaster from any attackers, and also use that combat shotgun to protect them as well. And that's pretty much the rundown when it comes to the Jaeger Kin. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the Underhive Outcast champion real quick. For these gangs, these guys cost 60 credits apiece, and for their stats, they have 5-inch movement, 3+ weapon skill, 4+ ballistic skill. They have 3 strength, 3 toughness. They also have 2 wounds, they have 4 initiative, 1 attack. They have 6 leadership, 7 cool, 8 willpower, as well as 8 intelligence. So let's go on and talk about these guys real quick. So when it comes to the Underhive Outcast champions, they're very versatile, and the reason why is because their stats are pretty much mediocre. Now that's both a good and a bad thing. While it might be bad because they can't excel at any one given thing, whether it's shooting or close combat, it does allow them to be able to equip a large variety of weapons and fulfill any role that you need them to fulfill within your gang as well. Now, when it also comes to your guys' Underhive Outcast champions, archetypes, of course, are very, very important, but the problem with these guys, though, is that their archetypes are very limited for their skills, in my opinion. For example, they have 5 different archetypes they can choose from, but they only have 1 primary skill, and each of those archetypes followed by 2 secondaries. So for example, if you were to take the Brawler archetype, Brawn would be your primary with Ferocity and Leadership as your secondaries. If you were a Gunslinger archetype, Shooting would be your primary with Agility as well as Leadership as your secondaries. For a Survivor archetype, Ferocity would be your primary, followed by Combat and Leadership for your secondaries. For Mastermind, Cunning would be your primary, with Leadership and Savant as your secondaries. And of course, for weird archetypes, your Psychic Disciplines would be your primary, followed by Cunning and Leadership as your secondaries. Unfortunately for the champion, there are no archetypes where combat is a primary, so that is kind of limiting on what you can do. So you won't be getting any skills really to increase your combat abilities, but better weapons and equipment choices could probably help out with that as well. Now, when it comes to their equipment and weapons, they can purchase pretty much anything they want to off the trading post, so long as it's within the rarity value of 8 on the trading post. So they are kind of limited in some of their choices, but the reason why that is the case is because you can take 1 champion for every 3 Hive Scum in your gang. So for example, if you have 6 Hive Scum in your gang, you can take 2 champions. If you got 9 Hive Scum, you can get 3 champions, and etc. So that's basically where the trade-off kind of comes in. And then finally, of course, we have our Underhive Outcast Hive Scum, which is your typical ganger and juvie level fighter for your gang. These guys cost 30 credits apiece. For their stats, they have 5-inch movement, 4+ weapon skill and ballistic skill, 3 strength and toughness. They have 1 wound, 4+ for initiative, 1 attack. They have 8+ for leadership, cool, willpower, and intelligence. And for their skill access, when they become a specialist, their primary is cunning, with ferocity as their secondary. Now, Underhive Scum, Outcast Scum, they're very mediocre, okay? But because of that, they're also very cheap to field. And even though they have very mediocre stats, they count as both gangers and juvie level fighters for your gang, and because their stats are still so mediocre, they can fill many different roles in your gang. You can equip them as shooters, close combat, you can use them as support, you can use them as suicide bombers, especially now that you can also put them on waster dirt bikes. They make great pursuers on waster dirt bikes, for example. So there's a variety of things you can do with these guys to fulfill pretty much any role that you want to. And plus, if you decide to make them to a delegation gang, you can also take better weapons equipment from the delegation lists as well. So that's another cool thing about Outcast Hive Scum as well. Now, unfortunately, you cannot start your campaign with an Outcast specialist, so that part is kind of sad. Almost every single game can have a specialist except for Outcast, so that part is kind of sad, but that's the kind of the trade-off. Yes, you can't get those specialists, but right at the start, but you have so many guys you can choose from, and plus your delegations could fulfill those roles anyways, so it's not that big of an issue. So that makes up your guys' Outcast Hive Scum. So let's go ahead and talk about this gang starting list. I like to call it the Lords of War House Greim Outcast gang. This is going to cost you 1,400 credits. So first of all, your leader is going to be your Creekmaster. It's going to cost you 240 credits. This person's got the Mastermind Archetype. They're equipped with light Carapace armor, bolt pistol, power sword. They do have the Eye for War special rule, as well as Overseer skill, and you're going to get them the Munitioneer skill on top of that as well. After that, you're going to recruit 2 Outcast champions. They're both equipped similarly, not exactly the same, but pretty similar. Outcast champion number 1 is going to cost you 165 credits. This person's going to have the Gunslinger archetype as well as mesh armor for that 5-up armor save. They're going to have the combat shotgun for obvious reasons, as well as a Stubgun and Chainsword for close combat, and you're going to give them the fast shot ability as well. And then Outcast champion number 2 is going to cost you 160 credits. This person's got a Gunslinger archetype as well as mesh armor for that 5-up armor save, a combat shotgun for a close assault shooting, as well as a Chainsword and fast shot. So they're not going to have the Stubgun, but both of these fighters will be able to open fire twice with their combat shotguns. After that, you have your Jaeger Kin, going to cost you 115 credits. This fighter is going to come with mesh armor, a combat shotgun with salvo and shredded rounds. You're going to purchase a Chainsword for them, so that's going to bump them to 115 credits, as well as the obligatory marksman skill that automatically comes with. After that, you're going to recruit 2 Hive Scum, Outcast Scum number 1 and 2. They're going to be equipped exactly the same at 60 credits apiece. Both these guys are carrying auto guns with smoke grenades, and then you're going to hire 2 more Outcast Scum number 3 and 4. They both cost you 45 credits apiece, and they're both equipped exactly the same with last guns. And then after that, you're going to also recruit 2 vehicles as well. Scum Racer number 1 is going to cost you 280 credits. This guy is going to be equipped with a Ridge Runner with a missile launcher that has frag and crack missiles. And then Scum Racer number 2 is going to cost you 230 credits. This fighter's got a Ridge Runner with a mortar on it for its weapon as well. So yes, very unconventional weapons. You haven't really seen the missile launcher or the mortar at all in this list, but the way we're going to pair these 2 vehicles together, it's going to rain all kinds of long-range destruction upon your enemy, and it's definitely going to make you the Lord of War on the tabletop. So let's talk about the gang overview on this one. So the key for this game is exploiting the Creekmaster's Overseer ability. Make sure your 2 Ridge Runners are always within 12 inches of each other at all times. That way either vehicle can spam the Creekmaster's Overseer skill on their heavy weapons. Ridge Runners are used for their versatility. They're super fast, they handle well, and they can pack some serious firepower for enemies. And as you progress through the campaign, I highly suggest you equip both with twin-linked heavy stubbers for extra firepower. Also purchase upgrades and war gear to match your playstyle, whether you're more of a aggressive playstyle or more about dodging attacks or being survivable. Now, like I said before, you want to use the Overseer skill on Scum Racer number 1 to get multiple shots with its missile launchers, choosing frag missiles for soft targets such as fighters for that larger blast template attack, or crack missiles for hard targets like terrain or vehicles. At the same time, you can also use Overseer on Scum Racer number 2 to get multiple shots with its motor, raining death upon dismounted fighters with that massive blast template as well. Now, this gang consists of 2 fire support teams. Support fire team number 1 is going to consist of your Kreekmaster, your Jaeger Kin, Outcast champion number 1, Outcast Scum number 1, Outcast Scum number 3, and Scum Racer number 1. The Creekmaster spams their Overseer ability on whichever Ridge Runner they need to accomplish the most kills. Meanwhile, the Jaeger Kin and Outcast champion number 1 protect both the Creekmaster and the Ridge Runner from attackers with their combat shotguns. Now, Outcast Scum number 1 lobs smoke grenades to keep the Ridge Runners from being shot at, while Outcast Scum number 3 provides sniping fire from their enemies with their last gun. I highly suggest you upgrade both these fighters with better weapons and equipment and armor as soon as possible. Things like telescopic sights, long rifles for example, or even mesh armor would really help these guys out as well. Now, for your second support fire team, that's going to consist of your Outcast champion number 2, Outcast Scum number 2, Outcast Scum number 4, and Scum Racer number 2. Now, the Creekmaster spams their Overseer ability on whichever Ridge Runner they need to accomplish the most kills, whether it's being the missile launcher, firing frag missiles, or crack missiles at their harder targets, or in my case, using the motor here in order to blow up guys who are dismounted. Either way, Outcast champion number 2 protects both the Ridge Runner from attackers with its combat shotgun, and just like in the previous build, Outcast Scum number 2 lobs smoke grenades to keep the Ridge Runner from being shot at, while Outcast Scum number 4 provides long-range sniping fire with its last gun. And just like the crew that's part of the very first Scum Racer Ridge Runner, I suggest you upgrade both fighters with better weapons, equipment, and armor. as soon as possible, because most of the cost for your gang is going directly into your vehicles. And this is what I like to call the Lord of War House Greim Outcast gang starting roster for 1,400 points. So in conclusion, Noble House Delegation Outcast gangs are some of the great ways to add some more diversity to a campaign. You have a lot of powerful options with your Noble House Delegations. You can also make some pretty interesting gangs by throwing in Outcast Hive Scum as well as Outcast Champions. And now that you have the access to vehicles, you can even make more crazy combinations out there. In fact, in my opinion, adding these Delegation Outcast gangs is a great way to add a lot of diversity into an already diverse game set with all kinds of different gangs and builds, and it just adds to the diversity and the creativity of players in order to create newer gangs that they're out there in the campaigns. So with that being said, pick your favorite noble house and head out there into the ashways to reclaim your glory and your honor and to rise back up to the noble ranks of the noble houses. Just as always, of course, watch out for your balanced bandwagon guys, because those guys will always gripe and complain and always find something wrong with the game and try to blame you for the reasons why they can't play so well. So with that being said, feel free to comment, like, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this one, guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.